Hi, I'm Jake Winckelmann, and here is our extended around campus with Bellmore-Merrick Superintendent, Mr. DeTommaso. Hi, I'm Jake Winckelmann, and joining me in the studio this week for Around Campus, we welcome Bellmore-Merrick Superintendent, Mr. DeTommaso. So thank you for coming into the studio today, Mr. DeTommaso.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jake. I appreciate it.
Obviously, the big news here is your announcement earlier that you're retiring this year. What led to you coming to that decision after like over 7, 8 years, around there?
Yeah, I've been the superintendent here for 8 years. You know, my career in education has been 33 years in the making, 23 years here in Bellmore-Merrick. I started here as a teacher in 1988. Spent 10 years in Bethpage in between as the principal of the high school and assistant superintendent for curriculum instruction before coming back to my home away from home in Bellmore-Merrick 8 years ago. I think it's just, I've loved, as I said, I've loved every second of it, every minute of it. It's been phenomenal to be back here in Bellmore-Merrick in a community where I grew up, where my kids, were born, and so it was really just a pleasure to come back here. But I think it was time at this point. Certainly, my kids are growing older, and I can see wanting to certainly spend more time with them and with their, as they grow into their next phase of life. I guess that's the same with me, getting into the next next phase of life. So again, loved every second of it. I just think the timing was right, and the fact that Mike Harrington is the assistant superintendent and is going to take over next year. As you know, Mr. Harrington was the principal, very successful principal here at Mepham High School, and it just made everything really honestly perfect. So I guess that's it. I guess just the timing of
That's
it
incredible.
For me works.
Yeah, that's perfect. And what are the things you've done here in the district that you think you're the most proud of?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really think about those things like that. I don't really, look at a scorecard and say, well, what did we do? What didn't we do? I sort of measure each year about, and how the year went. And I think we've had successful years. I think there'll be time, to reflect on that sort of after the school year is over and I have more time to think about all the things that happened here in the last year. Certainly I'm happy not to be in the situation we're in right now, but happy where the district is as a whole. It's not pandering to say BMB and the culinary program and the electrical program and those things that were put in place, a number of years ago are certainly some of the bigger things. But, I'm sort of not the person that looks and sort of tries to, judge and tries to, look at all of the achievements. I think there'll be time for that, later on. So
Certainly. And if you had any big regrets or over your years here in Bellmore-Merrick, is there anything you feel like you're leaving unfinished?
No, not really. I think if I felt like I was leaving something unfinished, I wouldn't have left. I mean, it wouldn't have been time to retire. I think it was important for me to sort of help the district, the staff, students, parents, the community navigate, this time that we're in. Certainly I thought, getting through this year would be very important. I think there is light at the end of the tunnel, certainly, and I'm hoping that the 2021-21 school year will be rewarding for everyone. I think it will be. So I don't really have any regrets about anything that didn't happen. And, again, if I did, I think I would have certainly stayed here in Bellmore-Merrick until whatever that was finished or completed.
Yeah, that's what I like to hear. And turning to the other big story of the day, from what you see and hear, what do you think about the way the schools are handling the COVID situation and the pandemic itself?
Yeah, I think the schools have been amazing. I think just recently you've certainly seen Governor Cuomo and today Laura Curran and the editorial committee at Newsday, the editorial board at Newsday are talking about how schools have been successful all over Long Island. In Bellmore-Merrick, the staff has been absolutely incredible. The entire staff, administrators, teachers, paras, custodians, nurses, you name it. Everybody in this group in all our schools have worked harder than ever to give a sense of normalcy to kids, and certainly the kids as well. You know, they've taken all the protocols seriously. The mask wearing, the sitting behind barriers, washing hands, sanitizing, getting from place to place, you know, quickly, you know, avoiding, you know, certainly being within 6 feet of someone for, you know, 10 minutes. So I think that as of this moment and this time, I can't say enough about how the staff has performed, and you know how important it is for them to be with kids, how parents have been supportive and involved and trying to do, you know, as best they can the right things, you know, outside of school. So it's been, again, and I always speak for the moment, to this moment, we've had cases and we've dealt with them quickly and efficiently. All of our administrative teams have learned to be, you know, contact tracers. We do it in a detailed, extensive way so that we can keep kids and our staff as safe as possible. And, you know, if there were wood to knock on, so I'll knock on this, knock on wood, you know, we can keep that going, you know, well into the 2021, you know, the remainder of the 2020-21 school year.
Thank you so much. I think that's honestly the best response we've ever gotten. Thank you so much to the staff and students here to helping to make 2021 better year for students here, just in general for the school year. And do you envision the district needing new restrictions as cases tick up nationally?
We are constantly looking at the infection rate, whether it applies to Nassau County, Long Island, certainly in the Bellmores and the Merricks. We certainly are keeping an eye on the metrics. We're certainly keeping an eye on our individual cases and what that means to the school. Obviously, we have to follow guidelines from the governor in terms of what happens in the future. But, you know, certainly we are taking this a day at a time. We know how important it is for kids to be in school. We have seen that over the last certainly 3 months, but we also know it's more important for kids to be and staff to be safe and healthy. So we're certainly looking at all of those things. Again, we are literally taking this a day at a time, and we will continue to evaluate as we move forward. Right now, again, you know, we feel good about where we've been 3 months into the school year, but certainly we continue to evaluate what we're doing each and every day.
And I know there's definitely been some concerns from the students here about the upcoming Thanksgiving holiday week. Do you think, is there any concerns returning to school after that holiday?
We are definitely concerned. We're not only concerned every day, but we are concerned during this time period. You know, it's sort of as we're moving into the winter season, certainly there's more indoor activity. As we move into the holiday season, certainly we're going to see families and friends get together. We are hoping that everyone, you know, does the right thing and sort of keeps in mind the importance of kids needing to be in school. And we're very hopeful that people will continue to follow, you know, the protocols as best they can. Listen, I'm not a preacher, and I'm not someone that's going to tell people what they specifically have to do and not do.
I hear you.
Certainly not outside of, you know, school. But we know that what's happening on the outside comes into school. That's the way it is typically in any event or incident or happening. What happens on the outside winds up on the inside. So of course we're nervous about after Thanksgiving and certainly after this, you know, holiday break. But again, if we take it one day at a time, if we all just keep a little bit of focus on how important it is for us all to be in school, then I think we're going to keep in mind, you know, to follow the same kind of protocols that we do in school: mask wearing, distancing, washing of hands, you know, etc. So yes, concerned, definitely will be monitoring, hopeful that the importance of what we're doing here each and every day carries over into what's happening outside of school.
And what do you view as the district's biggest successes of the pandemic period?
Well, I think the biggest success to date, at this very moment in time, is that we've been in school for 3 months.
Yeah.
That we're getting to the holiday, the Thanksgiving recess. We've had cases. We've dealt with them. The staff has been amazing. Parents have been incredibly supportive. I can't tell you how important it's been and how critical it's been for kids, to follow the protocols. There were these questions at the beginning, from sort of, the outside. Could kids do it? Could kids wear masks all day? Would kids, sit behind barriers? How are they going to handle this? And, kids have risen to the occasion. It's something that we knew they would do. I mean, I think they feel how important it is and how critical it is and how much they want to be together in school. So if that's the case, then we really believe that they were going to buy into, that all of you guys are going to buy into wearing masks. And you're going to buy into sitting behind barriers, and you're going to buy into, not being able to go to lockers and moving quickly through the hallways and understanding what all that meant. So I think that's got to be, that in total is sort of the success. That's what's happening, right now through the pandemic, and hopefully, that will continue.
It's definitely a crazy, interesting, and new learning experience for us. And with vaccines on the horizon, how does Bellmore-Merrick get back to normalcy? Do you see spring sports and senior proms happening next year?
Yeah, I have faith that that's going to happen. I do. I think that, again, if we can continue to take things a day at a time, if we can continue to move, through the school year, keeping safe and keeping healthy and following protocols and doing all those things, that are necessary to stay in school, I do feel like we're going to move forward. That's obviously, our greatest hope is that we can continue to move forward, that the virus can, get under control, certainly more than it is right now, and that we move, again, day at a time through the winter season. By the time we get to the spring, hopefully the opportunity to be vaccinated at that time will happen, and then we'll move forward. It's really so hard to predict, what the future's going to be. I wish I did have that crystal ball to determine, what life would be like, 2 days from now, 3 days from now, let alone, 4 or 5 months from now. So again, I tend to be optimistic, so I'm going to be optimistic that, we're going to move forward with the things, that we love about schools, as we move toward the spring.
Definitely. We all got to be optimistic. And finally, we all end with an easy one. After 8 years in the district as teacher and an administrator, after all your experiences, which is your favorite building? It's got to be MEPM, isn't it?
Oh my goodness, you're going to ask me to answer. Come on, Jake. I spent years here. This is where I began teaching. This is where I grew up. I then spent 7 years at Calhoun as the assistant principal. So there's no way I'm going to answer that question. No way in a million years. It's a great one, but I love all the schools. I do. I've gotten, I have friends in each one of the buildings, colleagues in every one of the buildings. I'm proud of all the buildings in the same way. But I will tell you that I would say one of the more memorable experiences I've had was at MEPM, certainly as a married for a couple of years and a young teacher here still, and over in my room, which was 322, which every time I walk by MEPM, I peek my head into 322, is that in 1992, I'm in my classroom, and it was my 7th period class, and I wore a beeper. Okay, do you know what a beeper is, Jake? Any idea?
To be honest, I'm not going to lie, not really.
Okay, so, I know that Mr. Stein knows what a beeper is, but before there were cell phones, we could have these little devices, and you could put them on your belt, and you had a number, and someone could dial that number, and it would buzz. It was a beeper. It went off, and you would look at it, and you could see who was calling you, believe it or not. Well, in 1992, I didn't have a beeper, but I received a beeper from the hospital because my wife was pregnant, and with it turns out to be my son, you know, our first child, and there I am teaching a lesson, and that buzzer went off. And when that went off, the entire class knew that I had the beeper for that reason. And I can remember it going off, looking at it. It was my wife. You know, notify me, because that beeper was only to be used when she was going in labor. And
Right.
I got that. I showed the class. They cheered. They laughed. They yelled, "Get out of here. You got to go." And I left the classroom and went to watch my son Brendan being born. So if that's any way to answer the question, one of my greatest memories happened right there in 322 at good old Wellington C. Mepham High School.
That's the best high school experience you can ask for.
There you go, that's right.
Thank you so much, Mr. DeTommaso. It was a pleasure interviewing here in the Around Campus studio. Now back to you guys.
Thanks, Cenk. Thanks to everybody. Thanks to everybody.
No problem.